Welcome back. Here with us on Overdrive. The Hyundai Venue now comes in a more sportier variant, but is the change all just cosmetic, or does it also growl and perform with intent? Let's find out.
Who would have thought that by 2022 you could buy yourself a warmed over SUV, especially a sub-4-metre SUV like the Venue N Line. But the i20 N Line has been a big success for Hyundai, so it only made sense to expand this N Line range of sportier offerings to include the Venue. It's just been facelifted and it's one of the largest selling sub-4-metre SUVs in the country, so this decision only makes sense. Below you notice this red striping, and also the bumper design has changed. It's become a bit more aggressive, as you can see with these ridges here and this sort of angular section here. Now moving along to what's changed with the Hyundai Venue in profile, to start with that N Line badging, that really nicely done with the black and the chrome and the little bit of red is seen here as well on the fender. You get again some bit of red highlighting, and another very nice touch is this alloy wheel. It's in a new design, but you don't see a Hyundai logo on it. There's just this N badge on it, which is again very neatly done and separates this from the standard Venue quite nicely. Now moving along, you get these gloss black mirror caps. Again, they work very well with this white shade especially. There's a nice contrast to it. The red striping, you can see it here below. And again, there's a little bit of it on the roof rail as well. And it must be said that this red highlighting is done quite nicely. It never feels overpowering or over the top. It's very nicely integrated into the whole package. So you can see that here as well. And now moving to the rear, this full width LED tail lamp was a striking addition in the standard Venue facelift, and that carries over here. And this black panel now works quite well with this new black spoiler that you get with the N Line. It's very nicely integrated. Now again, the bumper is new with more red striping and a slightly more aggressive design. But a really nice touch, again, another one that's been very nicely done, are these twin-tipped mufflers. And they're actually functional. They give you a nice throaty growl to the Venue N Line when you're driving it. Now the Venue N Line gets all the new bits that the facelifted Venue gets. So you have the new 8-inch touchscreen infotainment with its Google and Alexa compatibility, the sounds of nature, and as well as the ambient sounds. So you have all of that. Aside from it, you have that slightly redesigned look to it. You get these drive modes. You have this integrated wireless charger. You have the new digital instrumentation, although maybe it isn't the exactly right fit for the Venue N Line, considering you don't get an actual RPM gauge, and that would have been something very nice in a sporty SUV like the Venue N Line. But we think the nicest addition to the Venue N Line's cabin is this new N Line specific steering wheel. This 3-spoke design isn't shared with the standard Venue, and it feels much more premium. It could well have come from a car maybe twice or thrice the price. A new feature addition is a 2-way dash cam. It's a useful feature on our unruly roads, but its placement can sometimes impede vision, we think. Now the Venue was never known for being spacious in the rear seat, and that continues with the N Line, although this all-black theme seems to accentuate that sense a bit. Of course, you have some red here and along the seats, but again, if you want rear seat space, if that's your priority, then the Venue N Line is not the one to pick. The Venue N Line gets a reworked ride and handling package with a 34% increase in damping force. A different steering tune with a more weighted feel has also been incorporated into this version. The exhaust note has also been spruced up via a new end can, while there are now rear disc brakes as well. The engine is the same 1-litre turbo petrol you find in the regular Venue, but pairs only with a 7-speed DCT here, making 120 PS and 172 Newton meters. The IMT from the i20 N Line has been dropped due to a lack of demand. So how do these changes make the Venue N Line feel on the move? That's what you probably really want to know, right? And again, there's largely good news. To start with, the steering, which felt so nice to hold, also works very well on the move. So you have a nice bit of heft when you're just going along in a straight line. And then when you do apply some turn in like this, you notice that the steering progressively weighs up in a very nice linear manner, which means that there's confidence to be had behind the wheel of the Venue. And even on the move, say you're picking through traffic and so on, there's some engagement to be derived even say in city traffic. And of course that will multiply itself when you are around a set of twisties and so on. So even the new suspension tune that you get with the Venue N Line, it's well judged. So yes, it's firmer than the standard Venue, so over rough patches, potholes, undulations and so on, you will be moved around in the cabin a bit more, you feel it a bit more, but it's never to an extent that it is genuinely uncomfortable or that takes away from the driving experience. And say when you've picked up a bit of pace, the ride settles, the Venue feels a lot more solid, a lot more stable, and there's quite a bit more engagement to be garnered. Even when driving in a straight runner, you feel that much more in control. So around corners, there's of course still body roll, that hasn't changed. It's still an SUV with quite a bit of ground clearance, the same as the standard Venue. But you notice that the new suspension makes sure that the Venue N Line turns in a touch more briskly around corners. It feels more stable, it feels more sure-footed. You feel confident carrying a bit of speed through corners, which means that if you like driving and you like going on road trips on hilly terrain and so on, the Venue N Line is just the right companion for that. And of course the exhaust note, that's also something to note. It's always in the background, you can hear that nice, exciting thrum. It's always there accompanying you throughout whatever mode you're in. That doesn't change that. And it'll even flutter or purr a little bit on downshift. So you always have that sense of sportiness, that that sense that something is egging you on to drive, which is quite a nice feeling to have, especially from a small SUV such as this one. Now as for the engine and gearbox, it's a straight lift from the standard Venue, and there hasn't been any changes made to it, so again it feels pretty much the same. And then the gearbox is the same pretty much, it's always working in the background, you barely notice it. Although we do think that with the Venue N Line, Hyundai could have given the DCT a slightly more aggressive tune. Switching to the S gearbox mode helps make the Venue N Line feel a touch livelier. The gearbox will then hold revs right to the red line. But the N Line isn't especially quicker than other small turbo SUVs. The gearbox also doesn't like full bore kickdowns all that much, although it is much more responsive to path throttle demands of performance. In daily driving, you'll spend most of your time in eco and normal. There's not much to choose from between these two modes, and both are well suited to sedate city and highway driving. The sport mode amps up the sense of urgency with a sharper throttle pedal and slightly more steering heft. It doesn't make inputs too abrupt and is a good option for more spirited driving. Prices for the Hyundai Venue N Line start at Rs 12.16 lakh for the base N6, going up to Rs 13.30 lakh for the N8. So for just over Rs 70,000 more than an equivalent standard Venue, the N Line makes a lot of sense for you if you enjoy driving. It's one of those cars that eggs you on, and while we would have liked a more engaging tune for the drivetrain, the changes that have been made genuinely work to make the Venue feel more direct and engaging. The more premium feeling cabin and the sharper looks are added bonuses.
Well, with that, it's time for us to wrap up this week's edition of Overdrive. But remember, you can stay in touch with the team through Facebook, Twitter, as well as YouTube. And you can follow our latest updates on Instagram. We'll see you next week. Until then, ride and drive safe.